Radio Players Guild, Watertown's own radio dramatic group, presents The Plot Thickens, a mystery comedy, the fourth in a new weekly series of dramatic presentations. Everyone, this is Bert welcoming you to the fourth program in this new series of radio plays by the Studio Players Guild. The Guild's purpose is to give entertainment and to afford everyone the opportunity to participate in radio plays, such as the one you hear tonight. We hope you enjoy it. Now, the story of Christopher Thorne, whom you'll get to know better as The Plot Thickens.
Hawkins, are you up?
Why, yes, Mr. Chris, sir. Just a moment, sir.
Now, don't bother getting out of bed, Hawkins. I've brought your breakfast.
You brought mine, sir?
Yes, here. Put this napkin under your chin. That's right. And stop looking pop-eyed.
Very good, sir. If you say so, sir. But this is most irregular. Most.
Well, that's just what I want it to be. Yes, I need a change, Hawkins. I've been up all night trying to think of a murder.
A murder? I do hope you haven't picked on me, sir.
Stop being facetious, Hawkins. You know very well I mean a murder for one of my mystery stories. Oh, imagine it, Hawkins. The great Christopher Thorne can't think of a plot. I'm going crazy.
Yes, sir.
Well, you needn't agree quite so wholeheartedly.
No, sir.
And why are you staring at those boiled eggs? You're supposed to eat them.
They are a trifle runny, sir. Don't you think this has gone far enough? Perhaps if I were to get up and prepare your breakfast as usual...
Oh, all right, then, if you insist. But I'd hope that if we sort of changed places, if I waited on you for a change, you might show your gratitude by thinking of a plot in return.
I fancy not, sir. I'm not at my best when it comes to homicide, sir. Now, if it were a love story you were writing, very possibly I might be of some assistance.
A love story? Oh, Hawkins, what do you know about love?
More than you'd imagine, sir. It was in an English garden, sir.
Yes, go on.
But there's not much more to it, sir. She married a baker. Seemed to prefer him to me, sir. I could never quite understand it.
Very poor taste, I should say. Oh, may I help you with your trousers, Hawkins?
Oh, definitely not, sir.
Just as you like. Ha-ha, Hawkins, to think that you've been concealing the ache of a broken heart.
Oh, it isn't as bad as all that, sir. But sometimes in the spring I do feel faintly nostalgic. There's something about the air. Don't you ever feel it, sir?
No, Hawkins, I don't have the time.
You should make time, sir. A man needs a bit of love in his life.
Now, don't try to sell me on moonlight and roses, when what I need is blood and cadavers, shrieks in the night.
There's the telephone, sir. Do you wish to take it in here?
Yes, see who it is.
Mr. Christopher Thorne's apartment. I'll see if he's in, sir. Are you in, sir?
Who is it?
Mr. Julian Marshall, your publisher, sir. It's most urgent, he says, sir.
Oh, he would. Well, give it to me. Hello, Marshall. Yes, if you're calling about my next mystery story, it's as yet unborn. Yes, I know it's serious. You're worried. What do you think I am? Of course I'm trying. What do you think gives me this haggard look? Well, if we had television, you'd see it. Well, something's gone wrong. I just can't think of a thing, I tell you. Yes, I'll let you know as soon as I get an idea. Yes. Goodbye.
I take it he's upset, sir.
Of course he is. He makes money off my books. So do I. Besides, in trying times like these, the public needs my sort of stuff more than ever. And here I am with my head as empty as a vacuum tube. Oh, my mind's gone dry. Hawkins, what am I going to do?
Might I suggest a change of scene, sir? A frolic in the country?
No, Hawkins. That's all very well for your love stories, but I need an atmosphere of mystery, dark forebodings.
Oh, I see, sir. Well, then, how about a haunted house?
A haunted house?
Yes, sir. Cobwebs, dingy attics, dark, dappish cellars. It should be quite conducive, sir.
Cobwebs, attics, cellars? Hawkins, I believe you've got something. Yes, I'm sure you have. Find me a haunted house.
Very good, sir. But where?
Well, how should I know? It's your idea. Scour the countryside and don't take the first one you see. When you find one that's really haunted, we'll rent it.
Well, sir, now that you've seen the place, do you fancy it will serve the purpose?
Yes, Hawkins, I think you've done very well.
Thank you, sir.
If this house isn't haunted, some ghost has certainly missed a good bet for a happy home. Do you think you'll like living in the country, Hawkins?
I rather look forward to it for a time, sir.
Ah, then that settles it. Bring on the owner and tell him we'll sign up.
Very good, sir. But it isn't a he, sir.
It isn't a he. But Hawkins...
Let me explain, sir. Mr. Hudson is the owner, but my dealings have been with his daughter, Miss Janet. She seems to take care of things.
I see. Then the young lady coming up the path wouldn't be Miss Janet, would it, Hawkins?
Yes, sir.
Well. Very decorative.
I thought so, sir. But I didn't expect you'd have time to notice. Might I remind you, sir, that you are here for the purpose of writing mystery stories?
Your insinuating remarks are quite uncalled for, Hawkins. Now let's get this business over with so that I can try and get to work.
Very good, sir. Oh, good afternoon, miss.
Hello, Hawkins. And you must be Christopher Thorne. I'm Janet Hudson.
It's indeed a pleasure, Miss Hudson.
Do you like the house?
Oh, yes. Hawkins has just made up my mind to take it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I rather thought being a writer you might like it. It is picturesque.
Yes, indeed. And do you introduce us to the ghosts, or do we just have to wait for them?
Ghosts? What do you mean?
Well, the house is haunted, isn't it?
Certainly not.
But, Hawkins, didn't you tell me?
Yes, sir. I talked to numbers of the townsfolk, and they all assured me that it was haunted. Very definitely, sir.
That's a lot of talk, Mr. Thorne. It makes me so angry. Just because it's over 100 years old, everyone thinks it must be haunted. But it isn't.
Well, that's too bad.
What?
I say it's too bad. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid we won't be able to rent your house.
Mr. Thorne, I don't understand.
You see, I need atmosphere for my writing. What we wanted was a haunted house.
Oh, I see. Well, Mr. Thorne, maybe I shouldn't have denied those rumors so emphatically, but I didn't know. And, oh, Mr. Thorne, we do need to rent the place so badly that I...
Yes, I understand. Well, then there are a few wispy inhabitants.
Why, yes, a number of peculiar things have happened. It's been going on ever since my great-grandfather was murdered in the next room there.
You don't mean it.
Oh, yes. One morning he was found sitting at the table and his head was cut off and it was on the table in front of him and they say the head was still talking.
Really, miss?
Yes, and the voice from poor old Grandpa Hudson is what people claim to have heard.
I see. Will there be a reduction in the rent for sharing our home with poor old Grandpa?
Why, well, we might arrange a slight...
No, on second thought, that won't be necessary. We ought to be glad to have Grandpa with us. And if we could feel sure that his great-granddaughter would pay us a visit now and again...
Well, if you'd really like me to.
Why, of course. Perhaps tomorrow for dinner. You and your father might sample Hawkins' cooking. He's really very good. Aren't you, Hawkins?
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure he is. But Father's somewhat of a recluse. I'd never get him out of the house, but I'd love to come.
Splendid. We've got a guest for dinner and a ghost. Shall we complete the deal, Hawkins?
Oh, I think so, sir. Grandfather Hudson sounds quite amusing, sir.
Let me remind you, Hawkins, we are not in search of comedy.
Quite, sir. And may I remind you that neither are we in search of an English garden?
What? Oh, yes, quite right, Hawkins. What we want is a nice, juicy murder. Well, Hawkins, what do you want?
I heard the sound of your typewriter, sir. I take it you've had an inspiration at last.
Getting 2 lines typed between 8 o'clock and midnight is an inspiration. Perhaps I have, Hawkins. Here, what do you think?
Oh, dear me, sir. I'm in her house here in the hills, all set about by daffodils. I beg pardon, sir. Is it a verse, sir?
Of course it's a verse. I sit down to write a murder, And what comes out? Poetry.
Oh, I shouldn't go so far as to call it that, sir. But I see your point. Perhaps it's the effect of Miss Hudson, sir.
All right, supposing it is. But what about this house? Isn't it going to have any effect on me? I'm a mystery story writer, Hawkins. My public expects gore.
I think it doesn't do to be impatient, sir. After all, we only did just move in, and it is our first night.
Well, what if it is? Is Janet's grandpa shy or something?
Did you say Janet's grandpa, sir?
Yes, I said Janet, and she calls me Chris. We got quite friendly this afternoon.
I see, sir. Well, perhaps her grandfather is waiting till we go to bed, sir. I must confess the thought of going up those great dark stairs gives me a bit of a shiver, sir.
Oh, nonsense, Hawkins.
If you say so, sir, but it is a great barn of a place for just the two of us. I say, sir, did you hear that, sir? I've a feeling it meant something.
Oh, it does mean something, Hawkins. Yes, it definitely does mean something. It means the wind is blowing through the chimney.
It sounds almost human, sir.
Well, maybe Grandpa's getting a tooth pulled or something. But I suppose you're alarmed at that noise, too?
Well, sir, it wouldn't be bones rattling now, would it, sir?
No, it wouldn't, Hawkins. You see, all old houses like this have shutters, and when the wind blows, they bang. You can prove it by every good ghost story ever written.
Oh, perhaps you're right about the shutters, sir. But that was unmistakably a knock on the door.
Of course it was. Why don't you see who it is?
Very good, sir. But it does seem an untoward hour.
If it's a ghost, Hawkins, show him in.
It seems we're still within reach of the post, sir. A special delivery letter from the city.
I see. And here I hoped it would be something unusual. Who's it from?
Look, sir. I say, sir, this is extraordinary, sir.
Well, don't just stand there, Hawkins. What's extraordinary?
It's a hand-printed note, sir. And look at this. Signed, Charles Massey. The murderer in The Perfect Crime by Christopher Thorne.
Well, very interesting. Letters from my own brainchildren. Let's see what he says. Dear Mr. Thorne, you brought me to life in The Perfect Crime. And then instead of letting me be caught and hanged, you left me alone in the world with my conscience. A fate worse than death. Now is my chance for revenge. Tomorrow evening, beware. You will die. The condemned man ate a hearty meal. Well, Hawkins, if I'm going to depart this world tonight, I'm glad I'll be taking one of your excellent dinners with me.
Thank you, sir.
Chris, I wish you wouldn't joke about that letter. It frightens me.
My dear Janet, it needn't. You're not frightened, are you, Hawkins?
Well, sir, I must admit to feeling a trifle uncomfortable.
Oh, nonsense. Can't you see it's just some character who's read my stories? Why, it all comes under the heading of fan mail. He's a crank, that's all.
That's the part that worries me. His letter's so peculiar. He sounds insane.
Oh, no doubt he is.
Well, they're the most dangerous kind. If he's got this idea that he's some sort of a character out of your book and it becomes a phobia with him, what was this character like?
Charles Massey? Oh, one of the most diabolical murderers I ever...
Sort of a character out of your book and it becomes a phobia with him, what was this...
Murderers?
Oh.
I beg your pardon, sir. But what joke is
Some sort. Yes, he liked to threaten his victims with knives, too, and have to scare them to death before finally finishing them off. Oh, darling. Now you must hear any more of the fellow.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Christopher Thorne, but you're going to hear a great deal more of me.
It's Massey, sir.
Yes, and he certainly looks the part. I suppose you're the fellow who sent me the charming little note yesterday.
I'm glad you thought it charming, Christopher Thorne.
Well, I'm glad, too, as far as that goes. But do we have to be so formal? Just call me Chris. How did you get in here, anyway?
That is not important. You taught Charles Massey to enter houses without being seen or heard. It's child's play. Just as it will be child's play for me to kill you.
Chris, he's got a knife!
Good heavens, sir!
Ah, but he isn't going to use it.
Perhaps not. There are other ways of killing a man than by using a knife. Aren't there, Christopher Thorne? And you taught me all the ways. They were all conceived in your brain and then transferred to mine. You often like me to choke my victims. Would you like to die that way, Mr. Thorne?
Frankly, I hadn't given the matter much thought.
Please, Chris, can't you see?
Now, Janet, let me handle this. So you're Charles Massey.
I wasn't always. Your books. I've read them. I've studied them. And the perfect crime of Charles Massey. That's the one. That's the one I read over and over. I thought about Massey in my room at night, until at last I felt his blood flowing in my veins, his brain ticking in my head, until I am Charles Massey.
He's mad!
Yes, I think you're right, Janet. He's beginning to pall on me. Hawkins, don't you think you'd better show the gentleman out?
Me, sir?
Yes, you, Hawkins.
Very good, sir. Right this way. Mr. Massey, I said right to Charles!
Oh, he's got Hawkins by the throat!
Stay where you are, Mr. Thorne, or I will use this knife. This is just a little one-handed sample of what you may expect when your turn comes. Don't try to get out of the house. I'll be watching.
Where's he going now?
Well, the obvious answer is crazy. Did he hurt you, Hawkins?
Well, not greatly, sir. But he does have a nasty grip.
We've got to do something quickly. We've got to...
Oh, she's going to faint, sir.
I've got her.
No, I'll be all right.
Hawkins, there's no use frightening Miss Hudson to death. Now, I think this has gone far enough.
What do you mean, sir?
Don't you suppose I know that this is all a put-up job?
Chris!
But, sir...
Now, don't put on that poker face. I don't have an extension on my phone at home for nothing.
I see, sir. Then you ever heard my conversation with Mr. Marshall?
Who's Mr. Marshall?
My publisher. He phoned Hawkins before we left town and said that he was going to send out a man to really scare a plot into me.
But I had no idea he was going to think of a plan like this, sir.
Yes, it was rather ingenious. I should have Marshall write my stories for me. Really, Hawkins, I had difficulty keeping a straight face when that fellow had you by the neck.
He was quite convincing, wasn't he, sir?
Well, the game's up now, Hawkins. You can't keep any secrets from me. Better tell the fellow to go away. Miss Hudson doesn't like him.
Oh, I'm not frightened any longer. Look, that window, it's opening.
Oh, he's up to something else now. All right, come on in, Massey.
But, Chris, it isn't Massey.
Hello.
My, another caller. And who are you?
I've come to haunt the house.
To what? And who, if I may ask, sent you?
Mr. Marshall. He'd give me $50 if I'd just break in the place and be scary-like.
But your partner, didn't he send anyone with you?
No, just me alone.
Good heavens, sir. Don't you
Wait
see
a minute,
what...
Hawkins. Now, listen, are you certain you're the only man Mr. Marshall hired?
Sure I am. He interviewed a lot of guys, but he picked on me because I can make all kind of noises like people dying and things. You want to hear me?
No, I should say not. Hawkins, this isn't as funny as we thought it was.
No, sir. It appears that Mr. Massey is not a put-up job.
Right. We've got a maniac in the house.
Oh, I knew the man was mad. What'll we do, Chris?
Where are the nearest police?
About 5 miles. The operator will get him for you.
I'll try, sir. Hello? I say, operator!
You folks ain't going no bulls on my account. I'm getting out of here.
He jumped out of the window.
Good. If there's one thing we don't need at the moment, it's noises like people dying. What's the matter, Hawkins?
The line is dead, sir.
What do you mean? Now, let me try it.
I beg your pardon, sir. Don't you recall that Charles Massey always severed the wires before entering a house?
Oh, Chris, I never should have let you rent this place. I made up that about Grandpa's ghost, but
Yes, I know you did. It was rather ingenious on the spur of the moment.
But it must be true of people that there's something evil going
Now,
on.
this isn't your fault. This crank would have hunted me out wherever I was.
We've got to do something, and quickly, sir. At any time, the fellow may come in
And finish me off, yes. A pleasant picture, isn't it? But if we just knew where he was at the moment.
This house is so big and rambling. He may be upstairs or in the next room listening to everything we say. Oh, Chris, if anything happens to you...
Oh, it's you I'm worried about, Janet.
Perhaps, sir, we might corner him in a room somewhere and lock the door. Then I could go for help.
But we haven't got a gun,
And
Hawkins.
he's a madman.
He warned us not to, but I think we ought to take a chance and try to get out of the house.
But would that be wise, sir? He may be lurking anywhere in the garden. At least we have lights here.
Hawkins is right, Chris. You can't go out there in the
I
dark.
suppose there's something in what you say. Well, Hawkins, we're 2 men against 1. We should be able to take care of him.
Yes, sir. We can try, sir.
The lights!
He's pulled the switch in the basement,
Oh,
sir.
stupid of me. I should have expected that. Working in the dark was another of Massey's tricks.
Now we can't even see.
Hawkins, I think there's a candle in the next room, on that big desk.
I'll fetch it, sir.
Oh, that'll be better than nothing. Where are you, Janet?
Here, Chris.
So you are. That's right. Hold on to me. Or better still, I'll hold on to you.
Oh, Chris, I'm so frightened.
What? Frightened with my arms around you?
Where shall I place the candle, sir?
Put it over...
Wait! Place it on the small table to your left.
Do as he says, Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
That's better. Now step over near your master. Very thoughtful of you to fetch the candle. It lights that corner of the room so nicely and leaves me here in the dark.
Where we can't see you. Yes, very clever, Massey, or whatever your name is. But there's nothing to stop me from...
Chris, what?
Please, sir. Don't go near him. He's got that knife.
And if you take another step, I'll throw it at you. You are wise to hesitate, Christopher Thorne. No doubt you'd forgotten momentarily how proficient your Charles Massey is with a knife.
I beg you, sir. He never misses.
Be seated, Mr. Thorne. On the sofa will do. That's right. You haven't long to live. You've made me suffer, and now it's your turn. Your brain thought of the crimes for me to commit, and when you'd finished with me, you left me to wander the earth.
Don't be a fool, man. Massey was only a character in a book.
Am I a character in a book? No. No, I'm Charles Massey, and I killed and killed for you. My hands are so dripping with blood that a little more won't make any difference. And I seem to know somehow that I'll be free after I've killed you.
Well, if I've got to die, I may as well make myself comfortable.
What are you doing?
Just pulling this cushion from behind my back and throwing it at the candle.
Good aim, sir. You've put it out.
Yes. Now, Mr. Massey, you can't see me either. We're on equal terms.
You think so? You think just because Charles Massey was your brainchild that you know what he will do, how he will act. But you're wrong, Christopher Thorne. You're wrong. I've outgrown your puny little plots.
Don't go near him, Chris.
The way I'm going to kill you, it will be a surprise. It's a way of committing murder that you've never even thought of. My last crime. Charles Massey's masterpiece.
Charles Massey's masterpiece. What a title for a book. Well, if I ever get out of this, I'll be able to write a masterpiece.
Honestly, Chris, do you really mean that? You've got a plot?
Yes, but what good is
Well,
it?
thank goodness. Hawkins, light the candle again. And, Father, you can stop acting. It was a wonderful performance.
Well, thank you, my dear. I haven't enjoyed anything so much since I played in The Mad Monster.
Now, wait, just a moment. Do you mean to tell me...
Well, you wanted something frightening to happen, Chris, and I knew Father would enjoy it. And now that Hawkins has the candle lit again, I can introduce you. Chris, this is my father.
How do you do, sir? I guess I look a bit better with the wig off.
I say, sir, it's all a joke, isn't it?
Yes, Hawkins. It seems we were taken in. and beautifully.
But it was also real, sir.
It ought to have been. Folks used to think me quite an actor.
You see, Chris, Father was one of the greatest stars the silent pictures ever had. Grenville Hudson.
I say, sir, I used to be a fan of yours. It's no wonder I didn't recognize you, though, sir. You look different in every picture.
The art of makeup, Hawkins. Wonderful thing. Well, this has been fun for an out-of-work actor.
It's just a shame, Father. You're as good as you ever were. You see, Chris, when the talking pictures came in, Father sort of got pushed out.
Well, you're going to get pushed right back in, Mr. Hudson. Yes, if you can fool a dyed-in-the-wool mystery writer, you must be good. Hollywood's been wanting to buy my perfect crime, but they haven't been able to show me an actor who could play the part of Massey. Well, you're it.
Father, did you hear that? Oh, Chris.
My dear Mr. Thorne, I don't know quite what to say. I'd practically given up hope of ever doing pictures again. I don't know how I can thank you.
Oh, don't thank me, Mr. Hudson. Look what you've done for me already. You've given me an idea for a plot. Why, it's an inspiration just having you around.
Well, thank you, but I only played the part. My daughter thought of my impersonating Massey, and she sent me into the city to mail the notes yesterday afternoon.
I see. Well, Hawkins, don't you think you'd better go and turn the lights on before Miss Hudson gets any more ideas?
Very good, sir.
I'll go with you, Hawkins. I know just where the switch is.
Thank you, sir. I say, sir, I've always wondered, in that picture where you played the part of the man with two heads...
Oh, that was simple enough, Hawkins. You see...
Great old guy, your father, Janet. But as for you little pretending to be frightened, screaming your head off every 5 minutes.
I was only giving you what you wanted. Atmosphere.
Were you pretending all the time?
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, when I was holding you in my arms, I couldn't help but think, well...
What is it you're trying to say, Chris?
Well, I've been wondering if I could make some arrangements to keep your father in the family. It would be wonderful when I couldn't think of a plot. Don't you see?
No, I don't. Before a famous writer, you don't seem to make yourself very clear.
Ah, but you see, I've never had any experience with love stories.
Oh.
I've read them, though. Boy meets girl, and bang, they're in love.
Then
I never thought it quite plausible before.
am I to understand you've changed your mind?
Definitely, my dear, since meeting you.
Chris, look, the window!
Uh-oh, that man again. What do you want now?
I come back to haunt the house. I telephoned Mr. Marshall, and he says I gotta make my scary noises.
Oh, well, now you listen to me. You go right back to Mr. Marshall and tell him we've had all the mystery we want for one evening. Haven't we, Janet?
Yes, Chris. And you might tell Mr. Marshall, too, that Mr. Thorne has a plot he's going to write for him, but that just at the moment he's working on a love story, and he's got to finish that first.
You have heard The Plot Thickens, a mystery comedy presented by the Studio Players Guild. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Studio Players Guild and taking part in future productions, just drop a line to WWNY in Watertown. And now, here is the cast of tonight's play. Chris was played by Charles Pierce and Hawkins by Bert Walker. Marilyn Console was Janet, and Massey was played by Earl Kelly. Pat Rayome was the man with the scary noises. Sound effects were handled by your announcer. Technical operations by Caroline Ryan. Tonight's play was produced and directed by Jim Higgins. We cordially invite you to listen next week at the same time for the next presentation of the Studio Players Guild and hear a story of romance entitled Case History of a Wedding. Until then, this is Vern Wenderoff speaking for tonight's cast and for the Studio Players Guild and bidding you good night.